Welcome to episode 3 of the Party Wagon Podcast, where we talk about all things Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, past, present, and future. I'm Brendan from the YouTube channel Brendan's Rambles.
And I'm Eric from the YouTube channel No You Grow Up.
All right, so this episode later, we're going to be talking about the movies, specifically the 1990s movies. First, of course, before we get to the main attraction, it wouldn't be the Party Wagon Podcast if we didn't talk about some toys first. So there's been a lot of toy news since the last time we recorded our last episode. So what are your opinions on some of the best, some of the worst that you've seen so far?
So it's kind of funny because there has been a lot of stuff that's been announced, but there's not a lot that's really making me excited out of everything that's been announced. It's kind of like either more stylized stuff that's not really action figures, or there's the loyal subject stuff that's came out, and I am surprisingly excited about some of that. As far as the other stuff, like there just seems to be a lot of like the Donkey Kong mode stuff coming out right now with the big heads and stuff like that. So Plastic Cell put out that Ronin figure, and I can't remember what the other company has put out, the Toon figures that kind of have the big heads and stuff like that. And I'm very indifferent on stylized stuff to begin with, but like just starting off with the Supercell one, like it has great detail, but it's just a stagnant statue and it is insanely expensive.
It's like damn near $400, I think. And
it's even more than that. I think it started even more than that for the small one too. So
oh my God. I see the one I saw, I could have swore it said like $356 or something for the price, but I could be wrong. And same with like the movie Shredder is like that. And like you said, you think that's an older one. So regardless, the weird thing is though, so I looked up the Turtles, the movie Turtles from that line. And they're only on the aftermarket because I don't know if I was looking at auctions. It was just real quick, but I saw like under 200 for all of them on eBay. So it's like, I wonder if these are, they're asking for insane prices, and kind of like Super 7, the prices are deflating on the aftermarket. I'm not sure. I could be totally wrong. They could be going for $3,000 on the aftermarket. I don't know, but yeah, I'm with you. I think I'm cooler with stylization popular characters as long as those popular characters have gotten accurate figures before, and the Turtles have gotten a lot of figures. So I'm okay with that. I never really cared for the big head stuff as much, the NBA Jam big head mode kind of thing. It depends. I mean, I have an angry video game nerd figure and a Nightmare Before Christmas figure where they have the big heads and stuff, but I usually don't go for that stuff, especially in the more serious realistic style of the movie Turtles or the Last Ronin, where there's so much detail put into those and they look so good, but then it's wasted on this weird looking abomination that I'd rather just have that level of detail and have a normal sized head and have a good statue of the Last Ronin. Even then I wouldn't buy it for that price. I don't get the appeal of we put so much effort into this to make this look as accurate as possible, and then we make the head 3 times the size of the body. It's like a glorified pop vinyl for me.
And that's how I feel about it too. Like you said, I would definitely say, and again, if I'm not holding it in hand, I can't really judge it too well. But I mean, it looks like it almost has more detail in a NECA figure. I feel like it does have statue style detailing, but again, it just looks so good. And then you just get to that giant head, and it's just not appealing to me. I don't know what it is, but it looks like a bobblehead that doesn't bobble. And like you said, from the neck down, it's like a perfect sculpt of what you would want for a Ronin figure, but it takes it from looking cool to just goofy for me. And I can understand some people might think it's cute or something, but cute is not something that I spend hundreds of dollars on for one figure. And that is just the other thing too, that I feel like people dunk on Super 7 for their prices and stuff like that.
We did. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But this is just outrageous. You know what I mean? Hundreds of dollars for one figure.
The heads look good. If they were just heads,
if they were on a bigger body, they wouldn't look bad at all. Exactly. It's like they took two good parts from two different figures and just put them together to make it terrible.
You can basically create that yourself for half the price. Just buy the 7-inch movie NECA figures, like buy that Raphael, then buy the 1/4 scale one, chop the head off, put it on the 7-inch body, and there you go.
That's about what it is. That's about how it looks to me. And
also, I understand people might think it's cute, but cute is not something I associate with The Last Ronin.
No, and I think that's what it is more so than anything, because we can talk about the two-toon turtles that got announced as well. Because we'll get to that in a second, but that's a really good point. Like the Ronin, I mean, we're finally getting the adult version of Turtles again, which is essentially what everybody our age ultimately wants. We want adult Turtles, and then you take that and make it more kiddie. I mean, I don't even know if kiddie is the right word, but it does. It just kind of takes the seriousness out of it. And I mean, when I think of The Last Ronin, like that tugs on my heartstrings. I'm not gonna lie, you know what I mean? Like that's a very heart-wrenching series to read. Like it's not one that makes you feel good. You feel bad most of the time when you're reading that series. And that's just like what I like about the figures too, like the NECA figures and even the Playmates figure. Like they look dark and gritty, and that's just how that property is to me. So that's like what I want out of figures from that, I guess.
I'm never going to buy this because I don't spend like over $1,000 or whatever on, or like $600 on a standalone thing. I mean, except for Scratch or something. But there was the Ronin statue they released with like the Ghost brothers behind him, and that's beautiful. Like if I was gonna splurge a ton of money on something Last Ronin related, it would be that statue. It wouldn't be a non-bobbling bobblehead. Like that's because that actually pays respect to the series. That's like. It's a beautiful statue. There's so much work put into it. Like it's one of those like kind of like first 4 figures kind of like things where it's they do a lot of game statues, and like those are always over $1,000. And it's like, on one note, that's ridiculous. But you also look at it and you're like, I mean, this is more work went into this than most things that are being sold at art museums. So
and that's because. So I feel like that's something that we don't really talk a lot about in the action figure world is like the quarter scale statue game, which like I like to joke around about expensive figures. Like I like to joke around and be like, oh, Hot Toys are dolls because they're expensive. I can't afford them. You know what I mean? But they're beautiful. Like, I mean, Hot Toys are amazing. You know what I mean? But quarter scale statues, like I can't even like pretend to joke about them because I mean, they literally are their art. Like, I mean, they're just a totally different ball game, but like, I don't even know. Like, I just can't ever imagine I'm going to be at the point in my life where I have that kind of dispensable income where I'm just like, because I think the Ronin one came in a regular one and then the deluxe one with the brothers. So I think they were at 2 very different price points too. And I think it was like around $800 or so to add the brothers. It was a pretty good chunk of change. And those things are beautiful, but I can never imagine getting to the point of normalizing spending money on stuff like that.
I know there was one I always wanted, a character from Ocarina of Time, Darunia, the Goron chief guy. And it's a beautiful figure. I mean, if you want to call him beautiful, it's kind of weird, but it's a great figure, but it's like over $1,000 and it's the one dude. So it's like, I've always been like, never getting that. But to get 4 characters and with all that detail, and there's even like, I think there's like even like ground below them, like street below them, with some details.
They're always built on like something that like kind of raises them up so they can get into like a position. I'm not sure if he's on a rooftop or it's been so long since I've seen that. I can't really remember.
Yeah. For $800, that's really good. I have a quarter scale Poison from Final.
I mean, it's more than that. It was a couple grand for that statue. I'm pretty sure. I think it was like $800 just to add the brothers onto the statue.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. That makes more sense.
I think, the upgrade to get the brothers on the back was like $800 or something. I'm pretty sure the regular one started at like 16 or something like that, and the other one I can't remember exactly. But quarter scale statues are expensive.
Yeah, I only have one. I have Poison from Final Fight from Capcom, Street Fighter, whatever.
Oh, nice.
And I got her for like a weirdly good deal, really good payment plan. Actually, like we did talked about in a Toy Hall video, it was also kind of I didn't know let's make a deal on eBay was a commit to buy. I thought it was like I could just shoot around some prices and see where he wants to go. I'm like, oh shit, I'm like supposed to buy this now for this price. And I didn't know that. So,
hey, as someone who sells a lot on eBay, thank you for not backing out, by the way, because I can't tell you how annoying that is when someone sends you an offer and you accept it and they're like, oh, on second thought, I'm not going to get it. Sorry, man. Like that happens a lot. Like it's hard to believe how often it does.
I debated that, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to be a dick. And it's like, yeah, it's a good payment plan. I'm paying. I mean, it's already paid off, but it's like, you know, it wasn't. I got it for a really good price, also, because it's like missing an accessory and stuff. But it's just, she was supposed to have like swappable faces. I think it's missing the other face, but whatever. It was the only quarter scale statue I got, and even then, it was kind of an accident. So it's like, yeah, I'm not into the. I don't really collect quarter scale figures because they're so expensive. I know they do a lot of like Street Fighter ones and stuff, and they look really nice. Yeah, it's just not reasonably in my price range, and they also just take up so much space that it's like I could spend less money on like 20 other figures I can put in that same spot where only one would go, where I would spend, you know, a ton of money on it. So
yeah, at the end of the day, though, if you sit down and break down some, I'm sure, especially some of your Playmates shelves, I feel like you could probably. There's probably a lot more money sitting on those shelves than you think of. Exactly. Like, again, I only have like basic Playmates figures. I haven't even bought any high end stuff, and I feel like you have a pretty respectable collection going for the higher end stuff.
Yeah, as far as I guess the main line goes, not so much for the sublines like the turtle variants. I don't have as many of the rare ones of those because I don't care as much about the rare ones. I just want the turtle variants I had as a kid. But yeah, you know, I have Scratch, Hotspot Complete. Even those, like those are the big ones, Shogun Show, like that kind of stuff.
Well, again, Show, just for, again, at the price you got it at, just blows my mind. But I mean, he's one that I know keeps going up. Like, he's probably like a higher mid-tier figure right now. Like, he's probably pushing between $750 and $1,000. I haven't checked in a while.
I got him for like what, 260, I think, like 200 or something. Something not that.
And new in package too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was mint in package, and I ripped that.
And then should we say you opened it on here? So do you think people are going to come after you if we say that on here?
Yeah, no, I opened them as nicely as possible. I used an X-Acto knife and just slid it open. I still have the package up there on a shelf, and it's like, if I wanted to, if I even wanted to, I could slip them back in there, super glue the bottom. You'd never know, but. But I wouldn't do that because I'm not a scumbag. But yeah, then like now a lot of the ones I took for granted are expensive now because now it's like I see like Mona Lisa with all her accessories, which I have goes for a lot of money, and Half Court with all his accessories, which I have goes for a lot of money, and Antrax with his antennae not broken off his head.
It adds like $75 to the figure. Like it varies from like $75 to $150 if he has those antennas in his head.
Yeah. Because I actually have a broken one and I have a good one. So nice. I actually have one with one antenna and I have one with both. And then both of them had all their accessories. So I just have a pile of Antrax accessories. But yeah, so like a lot of them I have are, you know, Sandstorm, I don't have his accessories, so he's not worth anywhere near as much without his accessories. But a lot of those, like, you know, Wave 5, Wave 6 ones are worth a lot now, even if they're not like Grail figures. They're worth a lot more than they used to be, even like Hothead and stuff. So I don't know how much Hothead goes for, but like Hothead and Murdude I have like complete and stuff. So
Murdude is the one figure I got right before the boom started out of like the later waves, and I got him complete for $25. And I think
that's beautiful.
Like 2 years ago, he was like 50, so I don't even know what he'd be right now. But
yeah, I'd say probably complete with all his accessories. This is just a ballpark estimate, but I guess like probably like a little over 100, maybe.
Damn, that's crazy.
Maybe 80. I don't know how much they're going for, honestly. I always thought those two would be worth more than they actually were, though, because I remember them being really hard to find when I was a kid, and they came later in Wave 5 than the other guys did. Like you could find King Lionheart everywhere. Yeah. Monty Moose was everywhere. Antrax was everywhere. But like Murdude and Hothead came a little later, and they were hard to find. I never had Hothead as a kid, and we only saw Murdude once, and we grabbed them.
So they were both figures that I never even saw as a kid. I never knew anybody that had a Murdude or a Hotspot. Like I remember when I got like back into the line, like just like going through databases and looking at all the figures. Like I didn't even remember them from the back of the card art or anything like that.
Yeah, they came late. They were actually both in the Archie comics.
Yeah, I've seen the cover of the Hothead one a lot. I feel like that's like a really people really look for that book.
Hothead, he was like there was a point where like I could be wrong, but I want to say he was dating April at a point in the comic.
Okay.
But yeah, so
I've never really read the Archie one, so I don't really know what goes on there. I know it starts pretty lighthearted, and then they end up murdering all the mutanimals. So.
Yeah, Archie comics. Like I said, like I've actually I responded to a comment earlier about the Screw Loose. We got a comment from someone, you know, saying that he loved the Screw Loose figure because the Super 7 one, because apparently that's how he dressed in Archie.
Yeah, which again I never wouldn't know that.
Yeah, I'm thinking like I'm trying to remember. Like, did I ever even see an Archie comic with Wingnut and Screwloose, or am I just thinking of Wingnut's design from Tournament Fighters on Super NES as the art? Because that's how he looks in Archie. Yeah, like I said in the comment, like I'm a casual fan of Archie. Like I remember, I didn't read him growing up, but I remember around like 2006, a lot of them were like completely archived online, and I would just read the comics online.
Oh, nice.
I remember reading the first one with Mondo Gecko. I remember reading the first one with Tattoo. I remember reading the first one with the Chameleon. I read just like a random handful. I think most of the ones I read were earlier ones before the series got really bonkers. Because I got really weird over time that they have the character that's like a giant flying cow head that can transport you through dimensions, and like I don't know, they just got off the wall in Archie.
I think that's on the cover of one of the newer books. I'm still buying the IDW run, but I'm not like I haven't read up to that part yet, which I think I'm gonna start soon too, because everybody says the Armageddon game's pretty dope, and I have all those books, so I think I'm just gonna jump in there and see what's going on there. But everybody says it's gotten a lot better again since that happened. Have you read a lot of the IDW comics?
No, like admittedly, I've never read an entire issue of the IDW line. I've mostly just learned what I know about it from like watching reviews or like other people talk about like highlights in the stories. For me personally, it never really appealed to me what I hear. Like a lot of the stories I hear are just bonkers. And I know Turtles is like all built on bonkers stories, but some of them, like the April O'Neil origin story was just like, that lost my interest completely. That was like, what the hell is this?
So it starts really good. Like even with like them really changing up the story, I didn't mind it, like the Turtles backstory and stuff like that. And I think like through the first 30 issues, I was digging it. And then the art really started to get weak when Sophie Campbell started drawing the interiors. And then I think she took over the run writing eventually too. And I mean, I'm through like I'm right around issue 40 or something like that. And I really did just start to wane in interest.
It turned into like Mutant Land soap operas, basically, wasn't it?
So that's like after after issue 100, I think that's the run that really people don't like. So because they did a City at War that was like through the 90s. And then they had a Triceraton invasion as well, I'm pretty sure at some point. And then it was after that, like they got into this era in from like 100 to where they are now with Armageddon, where people just didn't seem to be feeling it. And like that just really turned me off, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, well, do I want to keep reading this run? And I know it's really going to get bad, but people seem to be pretty stoked on the Armageddon game. So, I mean, we can talk about comics a whole other day, but getting way back to our original topic.
What was the original topic? I don't remember anymore.
All the figures that are coming out that we don't really give a shit about.
Oh, that's right.
that's why I don't remember. So easy. But yeah, so kind of just looping it back to expensive stuff is kind of how we got really sidetracked, because we were talking about how expensive the figures were. And you brought up a point too that I kind of want to talk about as far as like buying something expensive. So like you made a good point with like quarter scale figures. So like, I mean, I have 4 quarter scale figures sitting on my desk right now, and if I had to buy all 4 of those at once for $500, like that just seems like such a different bite than buying them all individually, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's why I'm really having the hardest time wrapping my head around like the Mezco price point, because it is just biting that whole bullet at the same time. I feel like that just, I don't know what it is. At the end of the day, you spend all the same money, but to me, just losing it all at once, I don't know. I just can't, that mental hurdle's there for me.
I think also, I mean, I think like most people, I don't like to get my bank account below a certain amount.
Yeah, and stress going.
Because like you never know what's gonna happen. You never know when somebody's gonna rear end your car or something. You never know when somebody just decides, hey, you owe us $300.
Right.
So, like,
I mean, dude, I was in the emergency room for like a week last winter for an infection in my hand, and I mean, I'm still paying that off right now. You know, and I have good insurance too, and I'm still making payments on that. Yeah, so. Not to get into that whole can of worms, but yeah, I mean, that's just
insurance will never pay what you pay back.
Right. But yeah, that's just, I mean, an unforeseen circumstance that I've never had in my life. Because I mean, I've never had a medical problem ever. So I mean, I've never had medical bills. So that was kind of one that just threw me off as well. So yeah, and I think that's what it is too. Exactly. Like you have a savings account and then you just blow it all on one thing and then it's gone.
Yeah, I had to go to the ER back in 2011. digestive issues and stuff. And I just remember that bill was like, I was there for like one night. They ignored me. They spent 2 seconds looking at me, and then they're like, all right, it's going to be like $1,200. It's like, for what?
Exactly.
The problem worked itself out just laying here. Come on. I could have done this at home.
Getting back to the figures that have come out and stuff like that. So we talked about how the thing we don't like about that Ronin figure is the design is supposed to be kind of like cutesy or whatever. But with the couple Toon Turtles they released, it's Leonardo, and I can't remember if it's Mikey or Raph who the other ones are. Again, they're pretty expensive, and I can't remember the company that makes them. But with that aesthetic, I feel like it works a little bit better.
Yeah. It does. I mean, I've seen them popping up in GameStops recently, but I had never seen them before until one of my friend Jake, he gifted me a bunch of the Loyal Subjects figures for Christmas, like a freaking Little Mermaid handheld game and all this shit stuff. And he gave me these keychains that are like these metallic Toon Turtles, but they have the big heads and stuff. But it works with the Toon art style, and they're cool because they're little keychains and stuff. So it's like, oh, this is cool. I can understand why a keychain would be a big-headed one, especially if it's the Toon Turtles and it works with the art style. But when I'm getting like a high-end statue, I don't expect it to have a big head. So it's like the style. I think the style has to work with the type of product that it is.
And then again, with these Toon Turtles that they're putting out with the big heads, like, again, like getting back to even us just ripping on Super 7 for the price point, like $50 for these stylized figures. Also, I mean, it just seems, again, and I don't know, again, I have no idea how much it costs to make figures. I have no idea, but just these outrageous price points, like, I don't know, it's just weird to me. And I got different strokes for different folks. Everything doesn't have to be for me, but yeah, I don't know. With all this great stuff coming out right now, like it just, none of this stuff is really interesting me at all, even if it was at a cheaper price point. You know what I mean?
And I mean, yeah, when you really think of it that way, it's like, I know statues are usually made out of resin or something, they're going to be a stronger material, but Super 7's like, as much as we ripped on them, for $50, you're getting a big figure. They're big, chunky figures of tons of articulation, not as much as like, like some other companies, like some other high-end, like, Hasbro has more articulation usually than like Super 7, but still you got a lot of articulation, a lot of posing, a ton of accessories, alt heads, alt hands, alt everything. So it's like, when you think about it, for $50 for that, it's a lot better than paying, $800 for a bobblehead that doesn't even bobble. So, like no articulation or anything.
Because I mean, those Toon Turtles, they barely look different than the NECA head knockers to me. You know what I mean? Like they look around the same. And I mean, I understand they might have articulation. I don't know if they do, but
I don't know.
Again, at $30, you can get a bobblehead that does actually bobble, which would be more appealing to me anyway. So
even the little keychains they have neck articulation. They have like ball joints, I think, in the neck.
Oh, nice.
So you can still pose them to a certain degree. Whereas,
are they pops? I don't even know if I know what you're talking about. I don't know if I've ever seen them before.
I can grab one.
Yeah, grab one. I just want to see it. We can edit on this.
I forgot to mention also they're metal die cast too.
Oh,
here we go. Like,
those are way cooler than I was expecting. I thought they were going to be more like I don't know. I was just picturing, because I have a couple pop keychains and stuff like that, and that's what I was picturing. Those are pretty cool. I don't think I've ever seen those before.
Yeah, I hadn't seen them until he bought them for me, and now I've seen them a couple times in GameStop. Like they're popping up in GameStops, and it's like a 4-pack. They all come together.
That's pretty cool. I might go check those out, honestly.
Yeah, they're nice. I just have them like standing on the front of the shelf because they're nice and small, so they don't block anything behind them. So I just have them like in front of the shelf.
So the Loyal Subjects figure. So this is another line that when it started, it just seemed like it kind of like it didn't really have a place for me. You know what I mean? Like, we're getting all these new awesome figures. Draw to it definitely is the price point. You know what I mean? They're actually at a toy price point, and I feel like they are kind of more like toys. They're sold in the collector section, but to me, these are a little bit. I feel like they just feel a little bit more toy to me. The original turtle designs I wasn't super stoked on, but after getting the I have the Raph with the jacket and stuff like that, like getting it in hand, I kind of did like it a little bit better than I thought. And I mean, it kind of did make me start looking at the line a little bit different. In this next wave of figures that seems to be coming from them, I feel like they are stepping up their game. Like, I feel like they weren't just trying to get in and get out with a quick turtle buck. Like, they seem to be putting some effort into this, and I feel like they have some people on the team that know what they're doing, because there's, like with that Casey, we could talk about him in a little bit. There's some deeper cut characters on here. So, like, what do you think about the new figures that are coming out?
So I want to say real quick, those turtles in disguise, like rapper turtles, like that has been the hardest thing for me to resist. Every time I go to a store, I see them. I'm always like, I grab them, then I put them down, then I grab them.
I did the same. I had the whole wave when I got the Raph. I'm like, oh, here, I'm just gonna get them right now.
And I've seen all the Chase variants too and stuff. But
so that was gonna be the deal. If I saw the Raph with the 3D glasses, I would get him because I mean that makes it's 1 out of 4 or whatever, but there's 2 chases, so it's really probably closer to like 1 out of 8 is more like your chances. Yeah. And I was like, this is just serendipitous. I have to get this guy.
He's like the bully from Back to the Future with the 3D glasses, but
right.
Yeah, so the loyal subjects, it is. I had like kind of the same way with you at first. I didn't really think like I don't really need that. Like NECA's already got this covered. Then I was gifted all those figures, and honestly, in hand, they are a lot more fun than I thought they were going to be. And I know a lot of people will be like, "Oh, they don't look exactly like how they did in the cartoon." It's like, but NECA's already doing that, so it's like I don't need that exactly from another line. But yeah, this new wave definitely. I mean, Toon Slash was surprising to see this soon. Yeah, we were talking about the Rocksteady before we started recording, and because I was asking you, I'm like, I've seen Bebop in stores, but I haven't seen Rocksteady. And you were saying Rocksteady's new, you believe that like they held off on him.
I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they did split those guys up between waves. Because I know, like you said, I've seen the Bebop before, but I've never seen the Rocksteady in stores.
Yeah, so it would make sense. I guess they did Shredder and Bebop, and now they're doing Krang and Rocksteady. I guess they're like finishing up the villains. But yeah, they have the Krang one. The Krang looks pretty good, honestly.
Yeah, so they have the regular Android body that's not the video game version.
Yeah, the Bubble Walker. Yeah.
Oh, the Bubble Walker? I don't even know if I remember seeing that one. They also have Krang's Android body that's, I think it's up on BBTS right now. That's not like because they did the one that was like the damaged video game when he's flashing yellow. And I think they're putting out the regular one now too.
I didn't even know about the new body. I just knew they released a Bubble Walker, kind of like Super 7 did. It comes with a Bubble Walker one, and then it comes with the tripod, and you can have either one.
Okay.
But
I don't know. Maybe I did see that one. I can't remember.
April looks pretty good, and anyone who's watched my channel knows that I have a long history of hating April's action figures. Like I just when it came to the vintage line, when it came to NECA, when it came to Super 7, I've always just said April's figures suck. And I don't mean like Judith Hogue April. I mean like 87 yellow jumpsuit April. Yep. They can just never seem to make a good figure for her. And I know loyal subjects, it's not going to be like as good quality as something like Super 7 or NECA. But just the design, the sculpt looks pretty good, actually, I think, for the figure.
I was shocked because, I mean, I think this is the best looking cartoon April I've ever seen. Like, again, like you can talk about like the sculpt and stuff like that, but just the face is the thing that seems to be seems to be what's the hardest to get right for some reason. And I feel like that they knocked it out of the park, honestly. Like, I was very surprised that out of all the companies that I'm looking at a loyal subjects figure, I'm like, this might be the best April we've seen so far.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, I know it's going to feel a little like rubbery and cheap in hand. That's how their figures always are. But it's like, for what it is, it might be the best April figure, honestly. Because like, yeah, that's the thing. They never get, I feel like that's the thing they do a lot with cartoon characters usually. With NECA's usually good with that. They messed up with April. But it seems when people are doing real people, they're doing action figures of like, MCU actors and stuff. The likeness is like spot on. Like it just looks like you shrunk this human being down in like the Willy Wonka TV machine. And like, that's it. You have them now. But like when it comes to cartoon characters, they don't bother doing the likeness usually. Like I have the Super 7 did the like, 5.5 inch, like retro style Filmation He-Man figures before they lost the license. And I have the Tila one, and she looks like cartoon Tila 100%, except the face is just like a generic woman's face. And like Tila had those really sharp kind of like downwards, almost like Michael Keaton eyebrows in the original cartoon. And like they never give her those. They always give her these really soft eyebrows in the figures. And it's like, it just seems when it comes to cartoon characters, especially more realistic cartoon characters, they don't bother making the likeness of the face actually match the character. And it looks like the loyal subjects really got cartoon April's face down perfect. There's even like the like scared expression, like the shocked expression. And it looks just like a still from the cartoon. Yeah. Like it looks like how she looks in the show.
I'm pretty sure these, do they show real figures or are they just digital renders now? I can't remember. I think they're just digital renders, aren't they?
I can't even tell these days. Like almost all of them are digital renders when toy companies.
Okay, that's what I always assume. I assume most things because I mean, I know like Super 7, everything they show is a digital render because obviously the in-hand figures look much different. So which I just want to touch on this real quick. Did you see the debacle that's going on with the Simpsons wave that just came out?
No, I haven't, but I know that's taking a long time.
So they finally hit, and people got Mo, and he has no apron.
What?
They didn't put the soft goods apron in there. And it was not announced, not said. BBTS still says that it comes with the apron. And man,
I can't even imagine I can't even imagine what the character Mo looks like without the apron. Does he ever take it off in the show?
God, I was listening to Toy Anxiety, and someone said that it looked like an old school like boxing referee, and he does like if he had a different head. Picture Mills Lane from Celebrity Deathmatch. Like that's exactly what he looks like. Let's get it on. Yeah, that's what he looks like.
Clean fight.
He just has a bow tie and the stuff. That's exactly what he looks like.
Get up, you bum.
Yeah, but anyway, we'll talk about Super 7 again another day. But yeah, just after all we said about them, then they go and do something like that, and that's a line that's the one figure from that line that I most wanted too. So we'll see what happens now. Even if I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, back to the subject.
I know they got rid of the smoking Krusty head.
I know. God, that's a bummer, man.
That's like one of Krusty's biggest jokes is that he's like a chain smoker. He can't
exactly. So he's got all the nicotine patches on.
He's all like covered in the
like it's one of my favorite things. But God, just smoking is just not okay anymore for some reason. Like we just want to forget it ever happened. We got vapes now.
Ace Duck doesn't give a crap. He's gonna put a stogie in his mouth.
That's what I'm saying. That's the one reason I'm so stoked on that figure. I might not ever get a smoking figure ever again, and I just it just does something for me. I don't know what it is. Like it just takes me back to the 90s when all the badasses were smoking. Like
I mean, just think when you turn on Contra, you just hear this rockin' music and you see two big dudes with cigarettes in their mouths.
Right? Exactly.
Like I'm not a smoker. I'm not for smoke. I hate smoking, but it's like it's the look. Like it's part of the look.
It's just how like I said, I was the definition of impressionable youth. Like Wolverine smoking cigarettes, Gambit smoking cigarettes. Like it just really made me think smoking cigarettes was cool.
Yeah, I mean, have we ever gotten because I don't collect Predator figures, but like a Dutch Schaefer like Arnold figure where he has a cigar in his mouth because his nickname is Dutch because of the cigars he smokes. So
I didn't even know that.
So like I assume that's where the name's supposed to come from because I'm pretty sure they say his real name and it's not Dutch. So like if they having like we should get a smoking Arnold head at least like for that.
I mean he'd never allow it probably, right? Especially after I can't believe he would even do it. Well, I guess back then they didn't really know smoking was bad for us yet. So
we knew in the 80s that smoking was bad for you.
We were figuring it out, but I think everybody was still pretty resistant to it then.
Everyone was like, okay, we know it's bad for you now, but it's cool.
It's like, all right, let's stop smoking in airplanes and hospitals, I guess.
Yeah, you can still walk into a diner and just blow it in some kid's face, though.
Right next to the smoking section or non? Right next to each other.
I used to love that. There's a booth on one side, a booth on the other. This one's smoking, this one's not. It's like,
God. It seems so long ago too. Like it's just so weird. Like
it took me a long time to adjust. I remember like even in like up to like 2010, I would go to a restaurant. I'd be like, no smoking, please. And like I'd be like, they're like, dude, that was like 10 years ago. Anyway, though.
Yeah. So getting back to the loyal subjects, April looks great, but the one figure that I'm very excited about, and I'm definitely gonna get because we're yet to get anything like this. And this is why I think that they have somebody working on the brand that knows what's going on because they showed a picture for the Image version of Casey, which if you've never read the Image run is the most insane off the wall shit you've ever read in your entire life. Like Turtles is already crazy. It's literally just like sci-fi shenanigans. Like, I mean, it's a million years old at this point, so I'm going to spoil some things. Raph gets his face like melted off.
Yeah, I know that.
Half the time. Donatello gets turned into this like robot turtle somehow. Like, it is just crazy. But the one really cool story out of that is Body Count it's a Casey and Raph solo story. I'm pretty sure he wears that mask in that one. But his mask is more pointed. It's kind of got horns on it. And it's got the American flag like printed on it.
It looks like The Purge. All I can think is The Purge.
Yeah, it is something like that. It is very like post-apocalyptic type look. But yeah, it's very surprising. No other company has hit us with this deep cut yet. And it's coming out of the loyal subjects who have pretty much just been playing it pretty straight, close to the tune line so far.
Yeah, it's so. I think that's the first Image Comics action figure ever made, if I'm not mistaken.
For Turtles, yeah.
Yeah, for Turtles, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, because even so, the Playmates run had that mashup with Savage Dragon.
I remember that, yeah.
They had the Jim Lee Turtles, and those were never like in an Image thing or anything, but Jim Lee did design those. So that's probably about the closest that we've ever gotten to any type of Image Turtles, is just Jim Lee drawing them when he was at Image.
But the Savage Dragon crossover did happen in the Image comics, though, right?
Yeah, because that happened like right away. I'm pretty sure that was like one of the first mashups they did.
Because he was like one of their biggest characters. So.
Yeah. So and again, like Spawn is definitely like the flagship of that franchise, but Savage Dragon is amazing. I mean, I haven't read the whole run. I know like people say it doesn't get great later, but like in the beginning, it is literally just like splash page after splash page of mindless violence. Like it is amazing. Like
I've never actually read him. I remember I had some collectible cards of him back in the 90s, but I never read
so Image Comics are dirt cheap, man. Just get the first 3. Like there's a mini series that it starts with. It's just 3 issues. Just get that and you're gonna be like, this is amazing. Like Eric Larson, I mean, dude, he can draw for one. But he was really stoked to get the Turtles, and I could be wrong, but he really popularized like the drawing of the whirling nunchucks for Michelangelo's. Like anytime he drew them, he always did like the spinning effect on the nunchucks, and maybe it happened earlier than that, but that's where it really got baked into my brain.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I know in the 87 cartoon he did the whirling a lot, but that was like animated, so it's different. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I never really read. I like again, actually, Image is very similar to IDW for me, where it's like I never read it, but I've seen like videos about what happens and stuff. And I know both of those runs, every time there's an announcement, there's a headline, oh, one of the Ninja Turtles, quote unquote, dies. It's always Donnie. It's always Don. I remember when that headline came out about the IDW one, I didn't even click on the article yet. I'm like, it's Don. And then I click it and I read it. Like, yep, it's Don. Because it just seems like Don's the one. He sells the least amount of toys of all the Turtles. It just seems like he's the one that I guess he's like statistically the least popular turtle.
Okay. So I don't know how that could be possible, because to me, going by my eye test, I feel like most people, that's who their favorite turtle is for the most part. It seems like Raph, I feel like is just like the Wolverine, you know what I mean? Like he's just the most popular by default for some reason, because the badass usually is. But nobody likes Leo except for my boss. Like he's the only guy I know that likes Leo.
That was always my idea, is that like nobody likes Leo, but then I mean I like Leo. I like all of them, but he's my least favorite. But the older I get, I find a lot of the more casual people who like Turtles as kids but didn't remain diehard fans, their favorite was Leo.
Okay.
Because I guess he was just like, he had the coolest weapon. A lot of people like the color blue, I guess. So I guess like if they were like surface level fans, like Leo was their favorite. It's like, oh, he's the main guy. He's the best. I like him. So,
which to me, it seems like that would be Michelangelo. You know what I mean? Because I feel like when I think Turtles, if there was just one character to just describe 90s Turtles to me, it's Michelangelo. You know what I mean? He loves pizza the most. He's the most fun party animal. Like, party dude. Like, so
he was even the one they picked for the what was it, like Barbara?
The drug special.
Just say no special. Even though as he's like talking like a freaking California stoner,
right? Exactly.
From what I hear, Leo and Mike sell the most toys, which shocked me. I thought Raphael would sell like some of the most toys.
I definitely thought he would be the front runner. I'm honestly surprised when lines don't lead with Raph. I always expect Raph to be the lead every time.
Yeah, that's like exactly like what you said. That's what I said in my Turtle Talk video too. I always thought of like Raph and Leo are the Wolverine and Cyclops of the Turtles. It's like Cyclops is supposed to be the leader, but no one really cares about him. Wolverine's not supposed to be the main character, but he's not supposed to be the leader, but he's the main character. Everyone loves him. And that's how I think of it. I think Leo's the leader, but Raph is the main character, is how I think of it.
Yeah.
But apparently Leo and Mike sell the most toys historically. And that's why, if you notice, anytime Playmates puts out like turtle variants these days, they even did it with those new quote unquote movie turtles that they're releasing now with the trench coats. So that's a whole other story. But it's just Leo and Mike again, and which didn't even wear the trench coats in the movie, but okay. But they did that with like the color changing turtles for the 2012 line. It was just Leo and Mike. For Rise, when they did the motorcycles, they put Leo and Mike out before they put out Raph and Don because they were testing the waters with Leo and Mike. And it's like, it just seems like if Playmates, as of like 2015 to present, if they're going to do turtle variants, it's probably just going to be Leo and Mike because they make the most money. And it's like, man, what a shallow reason to just do Leo and Mike.
It's really weird that I've never picked that up either because, like, again, I know you don't love the 2012 line, but two of my favorite figures, the two that I did keep from that line, are those color changing Leo and Mike. I like that aesthetic. I don't know why. I like
they were cool looking, yeah.
And it really frustrated me that there wasn't all four of those because those would have been far and away my favorite four turtles of that line. I mean, those two already are.
Yeah.
But now that you mention it, so think about the NECA movie packs that got put out. There was Leo and Donnie came together in the first one, and then Mikey and Raph. And then when the Secret of the Ooze ones came out, it's Leo and Raph and Donnie and Mike. So you're right. They don't really pair up Mikey and Leo together in anything that I can think of.
Yeah.
They're always kept separate. They're the two that are never together, really.
Yeah, because they wanna make you just swap Raph and Don because like they know Mike and Leo will sell better than Raph and Don. Just so weird. Super 7 had balls though. They went out just with Raph. So
which again, but that's how NECA let off the quarter scale Toon Turtles too, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
Again, and I know I have bias towards Raph because he's my favorite figure, but like I said, I'm always more shocked when they don't lead with Raph on things.
I was shocked. The quarter scale tunes, they did Raph, then they did Don, and then they did Leo. That was shocking that they did that. But they always do weird stuff too, though. Like Playmates just did the reissues of the classic giant size turtles, and randomly for no reason, Michelangelo is the only one who's a Walmart exclusive.
Yeah,
but the other three are anywhere.
So I've been stalking my Walmart pretty hard. And I'm pretty sure Walmart's only getting Mikey and Leo. I don't think they're getting the other two turtles. I could be wrong, but they only have slots for those two on the shelf right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just more of that Mikey and Leo bias. I don't know.
Yeah. Which I would have thought that Leo would be there because typically like Target will do like a red exclusive and Walmart will do blue exclusives with figure. They do such stupid things like that. Maybe that was really weird to me too that Mikey was just one random exclusive.
Yeah, maybe to get a better audience for our podcast, I'll recolor our logo so that it's Leo and Mike instead of Raph and Don. As soon as I do it, like our viewers like triple. People just aren't clicking because it's Raph and Don.
So something that when I first started like messing with the logo and stuff, did you design these based off the talking turtles?
I did I didn't intentionally, but the Raph like I did. The Raph,
because when I really started looking at it, I'm like, is he a genius? Did he do that intentionally?
The Raph one I did intentionally. I didn't look at the picture, but I remember what his expression looked like generally.
Burned in your brain that much.
But Donnie, I just drew from memory. But you're right; he does. I think he actually does have like the crooked eyebrows.
It looks Donnie, just
right?
like him. When I really started paying attention to it, I was like, he looks exactly like the talking turtles, and that's what these guys are supposed to be.
Well, I guess now that we're done with the action figure talking, I just wanted to touch upon a couple comments we got. Actually, just go over.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So one is from Kootenai King. I hope I'm saying your name right.
So it's Kootenai King because I've slaughtered it before too.
Okay, Kootenai King says, you guys pointed out that Mikey gets the shit end of the stick most of the time in his designs over the years. He was done justice in Last Ronin. Yes. Because he's a fantastic design in Last Ronin. I guess it's kind of a spoiler if we say which one's Mikey. But...
So at this point, it seems to be out there based off the material. So if they're putting out the figures and it's everybody but Mikey, I think you got it figured out by now. You know what I mean?
Spoiler: the Last Ronin's Mikey.
Yep, it's official. I've kept my silence on this long, but yeah, we need to be able to talk about some stuff. So
yeah, and yeah, that design is freaking awesome. You got us there. That design's awesome.
Yeah, and again, I've never really thought about that. You know what I mean? Because even though I know the Ronin is Mike, like I just kind of see him as his own thing. As weird as that sounds, you know what I mean? And I think it's because he is just so un-Mike-like, and I honestly, he was my last pick for the Ronin. He was the last one I thought it was going to be for sure.
Yeah?
I figured he would be the first dead, honestly.
Honestly, just for irony's sake, I'm so used to twists now. I was like, it's going to be Mike. As soon as I saw the premise of the comic, I'm like, I bet you that's going to be Mike because that's the one you wouldn't expect. So,
yeah,
not to say like I got these crazy mind games. I see all, but like I had a pretty good feeling it was going to be Mike because that would just be the most devastating. Like, oh wow, Mike ended up in this state. Like this.
And so I think that's why. Because I'm assuming Kevin Eastman stayed true to their original script, and I bet that's how they had it originally too. Because originally, like when they were like trying to develop characters and stuff like that, and they left this scene out of the movie too. Mike is supposed to be like he's supposed to have like a rage energy inside him, basically. Like he comes off all funny and jokey, but he's really supposed to be like just most insecure inside. And I'm pretty sure there's a deleted scene where he just goes in and like beats the shit out of the barn or something like that and just freaks out.
Yeah. There was like him training in the barn, and he's like, we'll talk about the movies very soon. But he's training in the barn and like, like just beating the crap, like viciously, angrily training. And then like the scene where like Raph screams like Splinter on top of the barn. That's actually Mike. If you look closely, he has the nunchucks on his own, and he's actually just screaming in rage in the original one. Because that's what I always say I like about Mike in the movie. They really focused on that in the movie, is that like he's believable as like, especially as a teenager, that like he doesn't have his emotions in check, and like he is very emotional. He is very, immature in that way. He's very reactionary, but he tries to hide that and pretend like, oh look, I'm just cool with everything. I'm just joking. I don't take anything seriously. But then when Splinter gets kidnapped, he's the one crying and he's the one flipping out and stuff. And I know they even cut the fight scene short, but like Mikey originally, he actually lands the most hits on Shredder in the final battle.
Oh, dude. Why would they cut that short, man? That's like the best thing in the movie, man.
Yeah. You can hear it like while they're all fighting, the turtles are all like hunched over. You can hear Mikey fighting, and you can hear his fight goes on the longest, but they cut out the footage of that. Yeah, they even recently, I don't know if you saw, but like, you know how she sketches all the turtles, April, Judith Hoag sketches them. And well, I don't think Judith Hoag actually drew those, right? But maybe she did. Maybe she's very talented. But yeah, there was never a Mikey one in the movie, but the Mike one just leaked recently, went up for auction somewhere like a couple of years ago. And it shows him like real pissed and training in the barn. Yeah. So like that was clearly supposed to be like, I mean, I know there was the comic that went along with the movie back in the day, and it kept all that Mike stuff in it. So
yeah, because it's in like the teens of the Mirage run is when that happens, before the return to New York and after they, I guess, leave New York. So yeah.
Yeah, so Mike, I think, was a good choice for the last Ronin, because it's like it's kind of like his job to keep, he's kind of like the cheerleader for the team almost, like he keeps the morale up, and like, but then it shows how much like he depends on them, though, that like he can't keep that constant happy facade going unless he has his brothers making him happy there with him. So it's like, it's just so devastating when you find out it's Michelangelo. But
and so do you think the other turtles are like force ghosts, or do you think they're like his imagination?
I read it as it was just his imagination. Like he can't let go. He can't think of a dynamic of like being on his own. He only knows how to fight in the team. Like he's so attached to his family that like, but there are times where like they're straight up disagreeing with him and pissing him off and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, so that's what I always kind of, because I mean, it never really says or anything. You assume he's just talking to himself and stuff like that. But I don't know, like it just kind of, that's kind of what I liked about that too, is there's a very different style of Michelangelo that we've ever seen before. And again, that's the one thing I like about him. I like that he's a fun-loving pizza one, but it was just cool seeing him in a different tone. And like I said, it really, he got the respect that he deserves. Like he wasn't a joke. He wasn't a dipshit. He didn't get a trash can put over his head. Like he got his comeuppance. Like he got his just desserts. I don't know what phrase I want to use here.
One of those. I think it was definitely the best way they could have gone about it, I think. Because like we've all seen Raph angry and vengeful before. So it wouldn't have been that interesting if it was Raph. But yeah, I do think you could see it as like they actually are force ghosts coming to him, kind of like, because I mean, he wasn't dead, but like Splinter appeared to them like that in the 1990 movie.
Yeah.
So it's like it could be something like that. Like
exactly, that's the thing. I mean, they're all like they're into that whole thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
they're into martial arts, so they can talk to ghosts.
Exactly. It's like my joke for Dragon Ball. I was watching it with my girlfriend and her sister one time. She goes, "I understand why the Saiyans can fly, but why can Krillin fly? He's just a human." I'm like, he's just so good at karate that he can fly.
Yeah, they call it Buku Jitsu is what they call it. It's like an art form you can learn, and now you can just fly. Anyone can do it. It's just
just got to be real good at karate. You can do that kind of stuff.
All right, another one. One more just before we get into the main topic of the video, which we basically already kind of started doing, talking about the 1990 movie. But from Red Plastic TMNT Toys, they commented, "Fun episode, guys. I've been waiting for a toy-centric TMNT podcast. That's awesome. One misconception I wanted to clear up. Playmates is not sublicensing the toys out to McFarland or Super 7. Those companies have their own contracts with Nickelodeon. Playmates Toys doesn't make a dime off their toy sales." So we were joking a lot about like, oh, Playmates, all they do is license out the Turtles. I guess they don't actually. So that makes it even more confusing. So it's like Playmates isn't even making money off of other companies making toys. So like they're just ignoring money that could be made. So
yeah, I've never really thought about that before. I always just assumed if you had the master license, then people had to come to you. I guess I didn't think that they still had to go through Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I guess it's from what they say, which thank you for the comment. Thank you for the compliments too.
Yeah, for sure.
From what they say, it's they're just going straight to Nickelodeon. So I guess if you're doing like stuff based on the Fred Wolf 87 cartoon, or you're doing stuff based on, the Archie comics or whatever, you don't need to go through Playmates because that's not what they do. The one I find most shocking, though, is Super 7 doesn't have to go through Playmates because they're literally copying their sculpts.
So I bet that's the caveat that's confused me then. I bet Super 7 does have to do business with Playmates. And I think another thing that's confused me a lot is so like a big one is a lot of people will license Hasbro's IPs, but they actually own G.I. Joe and they own Transformers. So that's probably why I've gotten that all twisted in my head.
I think so. So yeah, I guess they go because Hasbro is the toy company and they own it. Mattel owns He-Man, but yeah, Turtles is owned by Viacom, Nickelodeon. So it's like Playmates just owns the primary toy license. So thanks for clearing that up. Actually,
for sure. I've never really thought about that before, and that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, me too. But anyway, I guess we can get into the final discussion, the real discussion of the video now. The 1990 movie trilogy.
Yeah, I've been very, very excited to talk about this. So, gosh, I don't even know where I want to start here. So, this is probably the series of movies that I put on, at least in the background, more than any other thing in the year. So, I'll sit down to watch movies, but if I'm just going about the house, I like to put on like fun things, and you know what I mean? So I will typically throw 2 and 3 on the background literally every month while I'm doing stuff around the house or around my room and stuff like that. Like the first movie is, I mean, especially as adults, we all know it's amazing. It's incredible. Everybody loves it. Most people, there's hardly anybody that probably doesn't argue it in their top 3 versions of the Turtles if you were born inside of the 90s or earlier. But the thing that I'm kind of the most excited to talk about is just, I feel like the second and third movies have gotten really bad raps lately. And as adults, I can understand why. I get it. But The Secret of the Use, especially, man, like, I don't care who you are, how cool you're trying to be now. If you were born from 86 or later, you loved that movie when you were a kid, and you know you did. And it makes me so mad that so many people, I feel like, are just trying to, like, retroactively go after it, and it just doesn't make any sense to me because I get all the silly stuff that happens. I get it, but as an adult, the first movie is my favorite, but the second movie is the most special to me for sure. Like I loved it when I was a kid, and when I think back on my experience with the original trilogy, The Secret of the Use is what I think of the most.
I love Secret of the Use. I'm right there with you. I agree. I know everyone's like, oh, it's so cheesy now. It's like, yeah, but I mean, that's what most Turtle stuff was back then. I would say that the first movie has always been my favorite, though. It's always just been a bar above the rest. But yeah, Secret of the Use was like, that was probably the most exciting time to be a Turtles fan. Was Secret of the Ooze came out, the toy line was like bigger than it had ever been. Like Turtles were just everywhere at the time.
Because the movies were 90, 91, and 93, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think 91 was the pinnacle year for Turtles, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that was highest toy sales. I'm pretty sure that was highest everything. So that really was like the zenith of the franchise.
Yeah. And I mean, really the first movies to thank for that, because it was after the first movie blew up that Turtles reached that level of success. But
so yeah, and like that's kind of because we talked about how the cartoon is like what, like the cartoon and the the cartoon and the toy line went hand in hand and really creating the success for the Turtles franchise. But that third movie, or the first movie, was definitely like a catalyst in that as well, because I feel like that brought like mainstream attention. Like it's like, okay, this isn't just for kids.
Definitely. I mean, even today, I know like it's I know there is kind of like two sides to the argument, I guess, that I can understand. There are some people who don't really watch the 1990 movie and still write it off. It's like, just some dumb kids movie. But then there's also the fans who act like it's the darkest fucking thing ever made. And it's like, there's still, like the Turtles cracking jokes and Donnie squirting water out of his mouth at the Foot Clan and stuff. So like, it's still got the fun of the cartoon and the seriousness and the stakes and like the drama of the comics. So I think like, I've said this before, even on this podcast, I think, but I think that movie is the perfect marriage of the comics and the cartoon, and it satisfies both fans, I think, perfectly. If you loved Mirage and hated what the cartoon did to Turtles, you'll probably still love the movie. If you love the 87 cartoon and don't give a crap about Mirage, you'll love the 1990 movie. So it's like the movie Turtles were just kind of perfect. I still, to this day, consider the first 1990 Turtles movie to be my number 5 favorite movie of all time. And
it's really weird. It's my number 5 too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's your top 5? Go.
All right. So the only movie outside of the 1990s is Superbad. And I know you're not a huge Seth Rogen fan. I'm not really a huge fan of him either, but that movie is just perfect to me. Like, not to get too into that, but I graduated in 2006. Yeah, that was literally what me and my friends were doing on Friday night, like going on crazy adventures to find booze for a party. Like that was, it just spoke to me, and just the dialogue. It's just exactly how we talked. But after that, it's kind of a 3-way tie. I consider it. It kind of varies between Happy Gilmore, Tommy Boy, and Dumb and Dumber. They're kind of all in like a 3-way mixture there, and I could kind of argue them different any other day. And then TMNT, the first Turtles movie, is my number 5, and then Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is my honorable mention for 6.
You got that 3, that like trinity you had right there is like the holy trinity of like 90s
comedy. That's exactly how I feel about it too. And I feel like some people could replace Happy Gilmore with Billy Madison maybe, but I don't know. There's something about Happy Gilmore that that's another movie that I watch almost every month probably.
I think Happy Gilmore's funnier than Billy Madison.
I think so too.
They're both like, classic, but I think Happy Gilmore is better. Dumb and Dumber is my favorite of those 3, though. Dumb and Dumber is great. Yeah. So. But my top 5 would be, mine's kind of a cheat because I have like one entry is like 30 movies. So I have number 1 is Rocky, the original Rocky. Nothing can touch that. That movie's just, I love it.
Wait, did you do a video on this? Have I heard that? I'm pretty sure I've heard this before.
I've said this a million times.
Okay, gotcha.
At this point. Second favorite is the original Halloween. I love the original Halloween. Third favorite is The Little Mermaid, favorite animated movie. Number 4 is bullshit. I just say the Universal Monsters because it's like, and on its own, like, no, I don't like The Mummy more than the 1990 Turtles movie at all. Not even close. But together, the collection of The Mummy and The Invisible Man and Bride of Frankenstein, all those together, like you can't have one without the other. So as a complete collection, I love them more than I do on their own. Yeah. So that's my number 4. And then number 5 is Turtles. Although it's weird because I also love It's a Wonderful Life. And anytime I watch, every year I watch It's a Wonderful Life, and I'm like, this is the best movie ever fucking made, like hands down. Like it's a masterpiece. And I'm like, why the hell is this not in my top 5? I'm like, well, it's just a really good movie. It's not something you can really become like an active fan of, like Ninja Turtles, Universal Monsters, Little Mermaid, even Rocky. It's like there's merchandise, there's like You know, there's more to it. It's a franchise. Whereas like It's a Wonderful Life is just an amazing film. I mean, It's a Wonderful Life, it makes me fucking cry like a baby. Every year I cry when I watch that movie. That movie's just so good. Everything about it's just so good. It's shot amazingly. Jimmy Stewart's amazing. Like, it's such a good movie. But yeah, but Turtles is, not to get too off topic. Turtles is my number 5. It's like, yeah, no, it's not, I'm not going to say it's as good a movie as It's a Wonderful Life, but it means so much to me personally because it's like, it's such a generic expression these days, but that was my fucking childhood. Like that was my childhood. So, and same with Secret of the Ooze. Secret of the Ooze was a huge deal for me. I loved that movie when it came out, and I'm not gonna lie, Ninja Rap still kicks. That's still a great song.
So hard, so hard. And there's another great song we got to talk about later from the third movie, but
the third movie. What was in the third movie?
We'll talk about it. Don't worry.
Okay. Because I know there was partners in crime in the first one where they say Raphael's the leader and all that shit.
Oh yeah, that rap that's all wrong. Yeah, at the end, like everything's like the guy's like, no, I got this. Don't worry, I know what's going on here.
He wears red. He's got to be the main guy. Yeah, I get it.
That always threw me off too. But yeah, so and again with the first movie. Before Secret of the Ooze came out, that's the one that was on repeat all the time. It was that, my VHSs, I had some, or my Turtles VHSs, and then I had some real Ghostbusters VHSs, and those things were just in loop pretty much constantly.
The Pizza Hut commercial, the baseball, out where the dandelions grow. You gotta know how to pitch. You got what is it? You gotta know how to run. You gotta know how to throw. Whatever. Out where the dandelions grow. Whatever the hell it was. I remember that. Like making it great back when Pizza Hut used to say that. And then they eat Domino's in the movie. I always found that funny. It's like it advertises Pizza Hut, and then they eat Domino's.
Because I'm pretty sure Pizza Hut was like ran like the ad, like all the advertising and stuff like that too for it. You want to know why? I know why now. It's because Pizza Hut didn't have delivery at the time.
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
because that's kind of what put Domino's on the map. Is they were like the first big delivery pizza company.
That's true. And then everybody started doing it in the 90s, and you got like the stereotypical pizza delivery guy costume with the red and white jacket like Kino's wearing in the next movie and stuff. But even like Pizza Hut, they endorsed the arcade game on NES. I remember that like there's like Pizza Hut signs.
So they had to change that for the collection, Cowabunga collection. Yeah.
Oh man, that sucks. I haven't played Turtles 2 on there yet. I've only played Turtles 1.
I haven't yet either.
That game actually came with a coupon for Pizza Hut. I remember my brother got it for Christmas, and we actually went to Pizza Hut afterwards and got like a free pizza.
I think the collector's editions did as well.
Oh yeah,
for the Cowabunga collection. I think they came with Pizza Hut coupons.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. that's a good throwback.
Right.
But anyway, back to the movies.
We're having a really hard time talking about this movie right now.
We'll get at least 5 minutes of actually talking about the damn movies before this podcast is over.
Start to kind of move chronologically through here, and we're kind of already talking about the first one too. Yeah, like I said, you nailed it. Like I can't even really add anything better to what you said. Just it is the perfect Turtles thing to me. Like if I could just have one thing for the rest of my life, they're like, all right, Eric, you only get one. You can only watch one Turtles thing the rest of your life. It would be the first movie because it gives me everything that I want. They're fun, they're pizza loving, and it's serious. Like it has its serious tones. Like, and I even picked up on that when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like when Raph does that scream when Splinter's gone, like
the circular camera and all. Yeah.
Like, I mean, that hit me as a kid, you know what I mean? Like you just felt his anguish in that moment. And like as an adult, so I probably went like a good probably 5 or 10 years. I don't even know how long through my 20s where I didn't see the movie. So my brain had evolved a lot during that time. And I remember the first time I watched it when I was in like my late 20s, just being like, this is actually a way better movie, like just a movie as a whole, as I remember it being, like just completely getting rid of my love for the Turtles. Like I was very surprised at like, and again, I know there's a lot of technical issues with being able to see the actor's face through Donnie's mask and stuff like that. They have their blunders, but like it's a pretty damn good movie, even if it wasn't about Turtles.
It is. Yeah. I think it's like, and I can say my best buddy Kenny since high school, he wasn't into Turtles when he was a kid. He didn't get the toys, he didn't watch the cartoon, he was like, oh, that's that thing everybody else is into. He wasn't really into it. But even then he saw the movie as a kid and he loved the movie. So it's like it seems that was just an all-around great movie. Like you didn't have to be a Turtles fan to acknowledge that was a great movie. And
I think that's why it went so gangbusters at the time, because that came out after Batman, right? Batman was the first,
was 89.
Yep, and then that was the movie that came out after. And I mean, it ended up being the biggest indie movie ever at the time, which is weird to go back and think that, is it Golden Harvest or New Line Cinema?
At the time? New Line did it.
Yep, it was New Line. So why is Golden Harvest in my head right now?
I don't know. New Line did that.
Yeah,
that was
so it was New Line from the start. And it's weird to think back that New Line was an indie company at the time, because I feel like when I think 90s movies, that intro for New Line is just like baked into my brain. And that thing will come up every once in a while where people are like, what does this remind you? What movie do you think of when you see this? And a lot of people say Freddy Krueger, but it's always Turtles for me. I always am like, oh, Turtles is coming on. You know what I mean? Like, I was always disappointed if I watched a movie and Turtles didn't come on after that intro.
For me, it's Turtles. But yeah, I know. I think their big breakthrough was Nightmare on Elm Street. They started with those. But I didn't see those till I was older. I wasn't allowed to see those kinds of movies when I was a kid. So
maybe that's why you like that stuff so much now.
Yeah, probably because it was forbidden. I loved Halloween and stuff as a kid. The holiday, not the movies. And I was just like, I want to see more of these monsters and like all this stuff. And then when I was finally able to, then I loved it. But what's funny about the New Line intro, I remember it at the Turtles more than anything else, but I was such a dumb kid. I didn't realize those were film reels. I thought they were ladders on the logo. I always thought of them as like ladders from Donkey Kong or something.
Oh, just fall. I get what you're saying now. Yeah, because they come in separately. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, one's like crooked and one's like, but yeah, that's I always thought. And I used to confuse that one. There was the one, who started with the Sphinx? Because that was the Super Mario Brothers movie, had the Sphinx at the beginning.
Yep, I can't think of who that is.
Yeah, I used to call them New Line, but yeah, no, the New Line was the film reels that looked like ladders. Everything about that was probably the first movie in theaters I saw with that intro, probably as a kid, or first movie at all I saw with that intro as a kid.
I'm pretty sure that was the first one I saw too.
And that was probably the first time I acknowledged that company intros existed, because I saw that movie so many times that like I acknowledged that. Because the Turtles, like I liked movies before then. Like I loved like the Land Before Time and stuff, but like Turtles was like, that was the first movie that felt like, this is like a real movie. Like this, like I know like everything else. I'm like, okay, that's a kid's movie. I'm into kids movies, but this is like, oh man, this is like, as a kid, you're like, oh, this is like a real fucking movie. This is like an adult movie. Right? Like what it felt like. So it definitely felt like you grew up a little bit when you saw that movie. Like,
oh, definitely. I mean, and again, I think we touched on this in another episode. Like one of the first things that Raph says is "damn," and you're like, what?
Yeah,
what? Did he just swear? Like, it's really weird to me, because so the only bummer I have with the first movie is I don't remember the first time I saw it. Like I can't remember far back enough, because I was 3 when I had just turned 3 when it came out, and that's literally as far back as my memory stretched. So I just remember having it on VHS and just always watching it then. So that's just the one thing I can't remember. So do you remember what it was like when you went from watching the cartoon to just going into this live action movie, and just like, were you just taken back? Like, I can't imagine the shift that would have happened in my brain, because I had them both at the same time as far as I can remember. I know I didn't, but that's how my memories work.
I do remember that. That's actually my first theater going experience. I do remember. I had just, I was still 3 actually, but I was turning 4 that July. So what you're describing is basically what I got, not to keep bringing it up, but that's the experience I had with The Little Mermaid. Everyone's like, oh, you saw it in theaters. Like, I don't remember seeing it in theaters. I remember it being
on VHS. That's weird, because I don't either, because I was even younger and I cannot remember. My aunt said I cried so much when I saw it. I was scared of Ursula or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, I remember having the clamshell, like white clamshell VHS, and just seeing that all the time in like 1990, 1991, like just seeing that movie a million times. But I don't remember seeing it in theaters. But I know Turtles, I do remember seeing in theaters. I guess because, I didn't know I was going to like The Little Mermaid at first. I was like, oh, we're just going to see this dumb girl movie for my sister or something. But Turtles was like, this is my shit. Like, we're going to go see my shit right now. So it was like, the thing that blows my mind the most, though, I'll get to how it felt in a second, but the way I remember it is I was into Turtles for ages, like the cartoons and the toy lines. And then finally the heavens parted and this movie came down. But in retrospect, I got into the Turtles in July of 1989. Less than a year later, the fucking movie came out. So it was like, it doesn't, for that, back then it felt like it was ages that I was into Turtles before the movie came out. But no, I saw this sucker in theaters. So it's like, it was March or April of
March? All the movies came out around March, which is when my birthday is. So yeah.
They should have done April, since April O'Neil, but yeah, but I remember, like, I saw it in theater, so that was only like 6-7 months after I got into Turtles. This movie already came out. I remember it just felt like I was so familiar with this franchise already, and it was like this was my thing. It was like Turtles and Mario. It doesn't get better than that. I just remember seeing the first time, because they did such a good job of keeping you in suspense. They knew like this is going to be exciting. They knew their suits were amazing, because I didn't see the commercials and stuff. I didn't know what they were going to look like going into the movie. And I remember seeing, you get that shot of Raph, and he first goes, "Damn, he's in the sewer," and you can just barely make out, like, "Oh, I think
I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about this intro."
Like, you saw size, like, that's got to be Raph, but it's like, oh, he doesn't sound like the cartoon one, but like, oh man, he looks real, like there's like scales on him and stuff. And then you see their shadows walking through the tunnel, and then the logo flashes. And like, it's just like the hype is insane. And then when they jump out and they start going radical and everything, it's like,
oh, when I was a kid, I just would sit there. I'd be so pumped up. As soon as they jump, I'd jump out. Like, God, that is one of my, both 1 and 2, just banger intros. You know what I mean? Like, it does. It got, like you said, they got your suspense built up, and then they pop out, and you're like, holy shit, these guys look amazing.
Yeah, and they looked so much better than I even thought they were going to. Like, they looked. You don't, like, I obviously, as a kid, I wasn't dumb enough to think those are the real Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but your mind tells you they are. Like, even though you know it's a guy in a suit, you're just like, that's a real Ninja Turtle, dude.
Yeah.
That's what they actually look like. Like, if they were real, they look like that.
It blows my mind that they could make, like, again, I mean, we're gonna have to talk about this for a minute, but Jim Henson, like, that man, there's never gonna be another person like him that walks the earth. You know what I mean? What he was doing then, it still holds up. Like, I don't think there's been any Turtles movie design better than those original costumes, and they were fucking puppets. Like, it's insane to me to think that they can make that. And I know they had separate suits that didn't have the animatronics for their fighting and stuff like that, and then they had the animatronics ones, but like the first movie, man, those heads are just so dialed in with the way they talk and the way they move and the way they just have expressions on their face. Like, there's never going to be lightning like that bottled again. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're just, I don't know. I don't know. I can't even find the right words to give for a compliment, because Jim Henson just made magic with those suits in the first movie.
He did. I can't think of a word. I was gonna suggest pork rind. Pork rind. Yeah, no, his suit. He said at that time that those were the best things he ever made in his life.
I believe it.
The only thing I think, because I know he passed away when working in between Turtles 1 and Turtles 2, and he passed away during the production of this show, but dinosaurs, those were insane, those suits. Do you remember
TV especially? Like, it's very hard to believe they had a budget like that, because those things aren't cheap, you know what I mean?
No, yeah. And they're not like, at least because I can think the Turtles could very well be the most impressive thing he ever made, but for me, I feel like it's got to be the dinosaurs, because it's like the Turtles are still shaped like humans.
Mm-hmm.
You look like Earl, like the dad from that. His legs don't start until like, right before his belly touches the ground, and his belly touches the ground. He's got this huge tail. Like, they're not shaped like humans at all, but they move like humans, and like they emote so much, and they're so detailed and scaly, and the coloring is airbrushed so perfectly. And it's like Jim Henson was just on a freaking roll at that time. He was
it's just unbelievable. And it's just so weird that nobody else could make puppets like that. You know what I mean? Even his kid couldn't do as good of a job. Like, but like nobody was doing that, because if you think all the puppet shows, Sesame Street, Eureka's Castle, like everything was Jim Henson. I'm pretty sure Fraggle Rock was Jim Henson. Everything was Jim Henson.
I didn't know Eureka was. I know Fraggle Rock was.
Kermit was actually in an episode of Eureka, I'm pretty sure, at one point.
I heard Eureka's Castle was written by R.L. Stine, who did Goosebumps.
It was. I think he did it under a pseudonym. I could be wrong on that one. I might be wrong, but he might have done it under a pseudonym.
Okay, because I remember the Goosebumps books used to write that in the back, like about the author, right? He's also the writer of the hit show Eureka's Castle.
Maybe I'm wrong on that one. Then I thought maybe because he didn't want to do like anything but horror at the time.
I don't think he did call himself that, because Stein was like, I'm guessing that was just like his horror name, like Frankenstein, even though he spelled it wrong. But like, he did Fear Street as R.L. Stine and did Goosebumps as R.L. Stine. But anyway, so the Jim Henson Creature Shop, I can't imagine what he'd be doing if he hadn't passed away there, how good his craft would have gotten. But
movies would be totally different. I feel like practical effects would have lasted way longer than they did, and possibly still. I mean, could you imagine what he could do with that technology now with our stuff today?
I can't even. Yeah, I can't imagine, honestly. Like the one thing I'll say that like most people agree was the biggest flaw in the original ones, if there had to be one, was the mouth movement. And I still think it looks really good for a turtle head mimicking human mouth movement with a motorized puppet. It's amazing. But I guess that is the one thing that kind of is the telltale sign, like these things aren't real. You can kind of see sometimes the mouths are a little like that, like a little sock puppety, I guess. But I still think they look amazing. But like, imagine how much better his motorized mouth movement would have been today if he was still perfecting that craft since 1990. It's really a shame. I could get into like a whole discussion about like, you know, how great Jim Henson was and how I feel it's a little disrespectful what some people have done with his brand over time, but
I mean, that happens to everybody after they die. You know what I mean? Like family, they don't care about that. They want the money. Like you're getting dump trucks full of money dropped off to you. Like most people are going to sell out. You know what I mean? Like,
Henson almost didn't do the Turtles though, because he said he thought it was too violent.
Yeah.
And which is funny that he's like, I don't think this is good for kids, you know, turtles punching evil ninjas. But it's like, you had no problem in like Labyrinth making those horrifying fire gang monsters pulling their eyeballs out of their heads and wanting to rip the girl Jennifer Connelly's head off and stuff. And it's like,
I mean, let's be real though. In the 80s and 90s, the standards of what is appropriate for children was much, much different. You know what I mean? Like, scary
was totally fine for kids. Like you can make a kid's property as horrifying as you want. Stuff like The Last Unicorn and Labyrinth and like Dark Crystal just had like creepy shit in that. And everyone was fine. But like explicit violence was a problem.
Always biggest no. And again, I get it because I mean, what happens when kids see people doing karate stuff? They want to start doing karate. You know what I mean? Who do they do it on? Their brothers and sisters. So I get it to an extent.
Yeah. And I get where he's coming from in the first movie. It wasn't like the cartoon show where the foot soldiers are just like dumb robots. These are like troubled teens and kids who like, you know, they're doing like they're being manipulated and stuff. So I can get like it's a little more messed up when you're just, you know, laughing and punching the shit out of a troubled 15-year-old as opposed to a robot. So like I guess like it's a bit darker in that way, but
yeah, I mean, especially if they like the stuff they cut out. Like there's the one scene where Tatsu, when he goes berserk and like starts beating the shit out of all those guys, he supposedly killed the one kid in the scene, and they didn't even film around that, so they just have to like when it's away from him putting the coughing in the background to make it sound like he came back too, but he really killed him in that scene, I'm pretty sure.
No, I have heard that. I think if you listen closely, someone says like he's breathing or something. Because originally he just straight up murdered that kid as an example. Oh, real quick though, actually back to action figure news. The best action figure news for NECA for the longest time. It's apparently, it's not official, but word is the actor who plays Tatsu finally gave the okay for the action figure for the movie line.
Dude, that's it. Like that line, the first movie will be complete for me if I get Tatsu. I do not need anything else. Like that just wraps it up right there. Like that is just if that happens, awesome, because that I was just gonna pretend like it was never gonna happen, so it didn't bother me. But that's amazing because he is like, if there was 8 characters, I think he makes the top 8. You know what I mean? Like you get the Turtles, you get April, Splinter. I mean, I guess Casey, so maybe 9. He's 9 then probably. You know what I mean? So he's very important. That's just awesome.
Yeah, it is. He was once we started getting like Shredder and Splinter after the 4 Turtles, I was like, oh, when's Tatsu coming? like Tatsu's, but apparently he's actually like a real martial artist, and like he was hard to get a hold of. He doesn't really respond a lot because he's busy just training people.
I don't think he gives a crap. Like I think that's mostly what it is he doesn't really get it, you know what I mean? Because he's just so much in the real world, unlike us adults that have something terribly wrong with us inside. He's well adjusted, so he doesn't care. And I think he's the kind of guy that he cares more about honor than money too, you know what I mean? So the money wasn't speaking to him, which respect for anybody that's like that. I wish I could be like that, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's just very cool that we will be getting that figure, because again, like Tatsu, I mean, it's weird that they never threw him in the cartoon either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he is like the main number 2 henchman or number 1 henchman for the first 2 movies.
Yeah, he was a boss in Hyperstone Heist on Genesis.
Okay, I've never played that version then.
They really slacked on the bosses. There's not even Bebop. There's just Rocksteady, Leatherhead, and Tatsu, and then you just fight recolors of them. But they got Tatsu. So oh no, actually, he was also in Turtles in Time, the arcade, I think, right? I could be wrong.
Don't think so. I just played through the arcade version. I haven't played through the NES version in a while. Or the SNES version in a while.
The Super NES one had Slash, but I want to say the arcade one actually had Tatsu. I could be wrong. It could just be Hyperstone Heist.
I don't think he's in the first one. He's not in the arcade version anyway.
Okay, because I remember at a convention I played. The last time I played it was at a convention back in like 2015 with some friends. There was actually a cabinet, like the vintage cabinet, signed by Kevin Eastman actually, and we played like 4-player mode on there. But that's the last time I played it. I don't remember. I know Slash isn't in the arcade. He's only in the Super Nintendo.
He's not. I can't remember who else all in it right now, but he wasn't. It was because I never played the arcade all the way fully through until I got this one. I'd only ever played the SNES version, so I was surprised at how much less was in the arcade version.
Yeah, the Super Nintendo one's actually the better game.
Oh, definitely. It definitely is.
Yeah, anyway, back to the movies. I guess this is the perfect way to segue into Turtles 2 for a bit.
I was going to say, I still have a lot more to say about the first movie, honestly.
Yeah, I know, I do too, but we might come back to it. But I guess while we're on the topic of Jim Henson, though, yeah, like, again, his team, they're really good, but they're not quite as good as when he's there, because Secret of the Ooze, they're still great. The Razar and Toka are awesome, but again, they're just not as natural moving as like the characters from Dinosaurs or something. And the characters from Dinosaurs really show that these really inhuman, monstrous characters, Jim Henson can make them look human and make them believably, like, talking and stuff. Where Razar and Toka, I feel like they almost made them babies simply so that they wouldn't have to make them like express that much and emote that much and stuff. So like they could work around that. I could be wrong, but
but do you think that's kind of just because of like the way those characters are being played? Because I feel like the dinosaurs, even though those suits look very cumbersome, they still use very like human hand gestures and you know what I mean? And just the way they move their heads and stuff like that. It's very human like, to where Toka and Razar, I feel like they are just played kind of like big beasts, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
Like, I feel like, because, again, the Toka and Razar suits, like, I think they're pretty damn good, you know what I mean? Like, those still look pretty amazing. They look a little more dead in the eyes, I feel like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where I sense what you're talking about, kind of. Like, there's just something in the eyes that just doesn't look quite alive to me on those. Like they look like animatronic eyes to me. But as far as like the facial expressions, I mean, when Toka moves his eyebrows and stuff like that, like that's a pretty damn animated facial gesture for something like that.
It is. I do think that's a perfect way to say it, is the eyes are kind of dead. I'm sure they can turn the eyes, but I think that's very limited, because I feel like most times if say Razar wants to turn and look at Toka, he doesn't just look over at him. He turns his whole head, kind of like Batman 89, where he couldn't move his neck, where like he'll have to turn and look at Toka because his eyes are kind of always looking forward.
Yeah.
And
so I bet those are because, okay, so the turtle suits, all the animatronics were in the head, and I'm assuming they probably had to run stuff up for Toka and Razar, so they probably made it so they couldn't move anything to disrupt the animatronics, would be my guess on those.
I just feel like the eyes don't move that much. I feel like also Razar's mouth is kind of just like, I guess like you could go the extra mile and make him like pant like a wolf or something. Yeah. His mouth kind of just always hung open in that same like half open kind of like.
Well, I guess they'd have to be hanging. Well, yeah, because that's where the actor saw it, was the mouth and stuff like that, wasn't it?
I think so. So yeah, they got to actually have to be able to see at some point. Yeah. So I don't know where the hell the actors looked out from the dinosaur suits, because those were like,
the mouths are tight. Yeah, they have like, especially because like Freddie, Eddie, what's the boy's name?
Robbie.
Yeah, way off. Robbie. Because he kind of has like a longer face, you know what I mean? So like, I feel like that would give like more tunnel vision coming out of there.
But I guess they were playing a sitcom, whereas Razar and Toka have to do like fight choreography. So I guess Razar and Toka had to be a bit more mobile and a bit more limited on the expressive side. So, because it makes sense, like Razar and Toka aren't just, hanging out at work and talking about family problems. Right. Like they're fighting. So that's like their main purpose is to fight the turtles. So I guess they made a good trade-off, I guess, there. But I would have loved seeing the dinosaurs ones though. It's like, can you imagine how good like Leatherhead would have looked in like the Jim Henson style? Because like
that's why I just wish. So do you think that might be the reason they went such a different direction for the third movie, is because they weren't going to be able to pull off all the cool animatronics and stuff like that? Because it's weird that we had these two new mutants, and like it just seemed like that should have been the route to go, as opposed to all the weird stuff that happened in the third movie. You know what I mean? But I feel like that probably was just a skirt around to be like, okay, like we're going to do these turtle suits and we don't know how to do anything else really. So
you mean your favorite Turtles villain is
not my favorite? All right, let's not go there. But
Walker?
I don't think it's as bad as people say it is.
The legendary Walker, the greatest Turtles villain of all time.
Oh yeah, he's terrible. I'm not gonna lie. I'm very glad he dies. Like he's one. Even as a kid, I was like, see ya. Don't even care, man. Yeah. But
I do have to say, Turtles 3 is actually we'll get to Turtles 3. Like,
so let's. I mean, we're riding the suit wave. Let's just get this out of the way. There's not even a lot to talk about. But yes, by the time the third movie rolls around, the second movie suits, I know they're not nearly as good as the first movie, but they still weren't terrible. They had their own vibe. And again, as a kid, I liked those designs. I don't know if I liked them more, but again, the second movie I just really love. I love those designs. I don't feel all the liver spots and stuff like that. But the third movie, I mean, they just took everything that people didn't like about the second movie designs and just ramped it up even more for that one.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't have Jim Henson anymore in the third one.
It's very apparent. Very apparent.
Those suits, I mean, for a small company, they're not bad. Compared to what we had, they're absolute dog shit. So,
I can't remember, like, I've probably listened to 10,000 hours of you talking at this point on videos. Did you touch on the fact that Splinter was just, like, only built from the half up? Like, he really was just a puppet in that one? They didn't even make a full Splinter suit for that one?
Honestly, I don't remember if I know about that, but I don't remember if I touched upon that or not.
So they didn't even go the whole 9 yards for Splinter. He was just a puppet. He was always like behind something, so you never saw his lower half. Yeah. And again, as the movie goes on, it doesn't bother me as much. But the intro sequence, did you touch on that? I can't rember.
What
I can't ever remember if I'm just regurgitating things you've said before, because I've listened to you talk about this stuff so much.
I didn't talk about that. I don't think you're regurgitating stuff I mentioned. I think you're regurgitating stuff that James Rolfe mentioned in his.
Okay, that also might come together in my head too. Yes, because his version is very burned in my brain too. But
they come dancing into ZZ Top, and they'll.
Yeah, but I really just want to touch on like the suits and the faces. Like when they're doing all their stuff in the beginning, they're all like the facial expressions are just dead. Like there is no soul in those faces whatsoever. And that as an adult, that's like just the first thing I see when I watch that movie. Now, after that, it gets better for me. But like they just did not like it. Yeah, it's just very disappointing that those suits slid that far by the third movie.
To be totally honest, I don't think the third movie suits are even that much better than the coming out of their shells tour suits.
Well, like, I mean, those are the worst ones of all. I feel like
that's what I'm saying is they're barely better than them.
Yeah, like, those ones are terrifying. Like, and again, that's what I love about the NECA figures is they look equally terrifying. But yeah, there's just something weird about the eyes on those ones. Those dudes just look like Chuck E. Cheese animatronic eyes to me.
Yeah, I don't find them as creepy as other people do, but I think like the third movie, obviously there's motorized stuff in the face that those ones don't have, but they're barely that much more advanced than the coming out of their shells tour suits. So like for a movie, especially the third in a trilogy, when the past two had really good animatronics, it just seems like if the quality is this much lower, it almost seems like why did you even bother? Like
I mean money. That's why money. Turtles was still, a cash cow at the time, and some people say the third movie is kind of what tanked the franchise for people.
I think
like a lot of kids got turned off, and again. I can understand if people were aged out at that point as well. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. Like if people were like, man, this just isn't doing it for me, and you're kind of growing up, I could really see how even as a kid, a lot of people didn't like the third one. But I mean, I was still 6 when that one came out. And I mean, 6-year-olds aren't the smartest people in the world. So I didn't think it was as terrible as everybody else did. Because again, with these movies, the second and the third one, like I said, I was born in March. So that's what I did for my 4th and 6th birthdays. Is I saw the second movie in theaters and I saw the third movie in theaters. And again, those are just very special memories to me. And I think that might be why I look back on the third one a little bit more fondly. And again, as an adult, I know it's not a great movie. I get it. I watch it regularly. I know it's terrible, but it has some good points to it. Like, I'm not going to lie. The fact that they got in the Wayne's World boner joke, like, that's a win for me as an adult. You know what I mean? Like, it's very cool to see something like that in there.
Yeah. I said this, so if anyone wants to hear my really detailed thoughts on any of the first 3 movies or any Turtles movie, my channel on YouTube.
A whole other 3 hours of content out there for you.
Brendan's Rambles on YouTube. I covered all of the movies, but yeah, obviously I'm going to do some repeating here. The third one, honestly, I like the parts better that aren't really about the Turtles. I like the village. I like the way they built the village. And I like the more serious scenes. I like Mike's story with Mitsu. I liked Raph's story with Yoshi, the little kid. I don't like the parts where the Turtles are just being the Turtles as much, because it's like, all right, rapid fire like jokes, and they're like, some of them are like charming, but then some of them are just like, I'm all for a cheesy joke, but like they weren't even trying when they wrote some of those. I'm retracing, stuff that James Rolfe said 20 years ago at this point, but that Addams Family joke, I still don't get it. The bad guys show up, the Turtles are there, and Donatello just goes, "You were expecting maybe the Addams Family?"
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like,
no, that is just a terrible joke. Exactly. That wasn't even in my brain because it's so bad. I clearly just rejected that.
And he's like swaying his head back and forth all sassy. Like, it's like the best freaking joke he's ever said in his life. And it was apparently in the trailer also. And it's like, I don't get it. Was it just because the Addams Family had a movie recently?
I mean, that had to have been why. So it definitely seems way less relevant at the time. So
yeah, I guess it was a trailer. It might have been a trailer gag. Maybe the trailer started off not telling you what movie it was going to be, and then it cut to that. Because
that's what it was. The serious movie guy voice is talking.
Yeah, almost like Ghostbusters. Oh no, it's Three Stooges on NES. It starts off as Ghostbusters 2, and then they walk in and they're like, "What's this? This looks like a kid's game."
Dude, I forgot about that. Oh man, that's one NES game I haven't played since I was a kid. I totally forgot about that.
All right, I didn't have that one as a kid, but
my cousin did, and I loved playing it over there. The one where you're eating the soup, trying to get the things, and the clams keep taking it, dude. Yeah, that's good. But yeah, like, and again, I understand as an adult, if you think it's stupid, think it's cheesy, I get it. But I don't know. It just, nostalgia is very strong for me. So I still just will always have a soft spot for that one. And the one thing that is just burned in my brain, and do you watch Toy Galaxy that's now Secret Galaxy?
I've seen like a couple videos. I haven't watched them like hardcore.
So Dan Larson, he's probably one of my favorite dudes on YouTube, honestly. But he was going over the third movie. And the fact that he brought this up, that song Tarzan Boy by Baltimora. Oh my God, man. The first time I heard that, baked into my brain. I was like, this song is amazing. And then it also appears in Beverly Hills Ninja 2 when he's up on the palm tree rocking it back and forth. They play it there too.
But I didn't know there was a Beverly Hills Ninja 2.
No, I meant Beverly Hills Ninja also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sometimes I talk fast and slur words together, so it sounds like that. Yeah,
I was gonna say, like, they made 2 without Chris Farley. Really?
No, dude. Yeah, never, dude. That's easily my top 22. I feel like that's an underrated movie, but
never seen it.
Yeah, you got something to do this weekend, man. Dude, that's one of Farley's best.
Oh yeah,
we'll talk about that later because I don't want to waste any more time talking about it. But yeah, that song is just one song. When I hear it and I make my girlfriend listen to it in the car all the time, like, it just takes me back to the early 90s. That's one of the most, like, that song is like a time machine. And that's what I think of as Turtles and Beverly Hills Ninjas when I see it. And again, it's just one of those things. I know it's a very minuscule part of the movie, but it's just something that I remember from my childhood, and it's very special to me.
That was definitely, even though it's funny because the song came out in the 80s, but that too was my first time hearing the song.
I thought it was a 90s song until I actually downloaded it so I could start listening to it to death. Yeah, and I was shocked that it was an 80s song.
Yeah, it sounds 80s as hell, but it was in so many 90s movies that it was like, I love that song. But there are some
times always reminds me of that scene where Casey's in the bar. Like that is kind of like I wish Casey would have got to do some badass stuff, but when he's hanging out with all those Japanese dudes, like that's like some of my favorite shtick from the movie for sure.
Yeah, but he's like babysitting them basically.
Yeah.
I think that was actually the best comedy. Was that I actually almost wish there was more scenes of that than
I agree.
than help I'm a turtle and I can't get up. But
right. Okay, that's one I did remember from your video, so I wasn't gonna say it because I was gonna bring up terrible jokes. Yeah,
help! I'm a turtle and I can't get up.
Yeah,
that does happen sometimes. Like I know, so the Peter Gabriel song "In Your Eyes."
No.
Oh, okay. It's the one from what the hell is the movie where the guy holds up the boombox outside the girl's window and just plays it. And but anyway,
yeah.
That came out in the 80s, the movie too, but like the song came out in the 80s. For some reason, when I was in third grade in like 95, 94, 95, I heard that song so much, that song just transported me back to 1995. Like when I hear it. But anyway, yeah, so you still had more stuff to say about the first movie. So I guess let's travel back to the first movie before we get into talking about the sequels as much. So
yeah, so going back to the first movie, one of the coolest things that happened to me as an adult is when I started reading the Image comic, or not the Image, when I started reading the Mirage comics, and reading through that first arc, like those first 20 issues, it just blew my mind, like seeing where all that source material actually came from. Like that really, like, I don't know, like that was just like my whole life coming full circle. I feel like and the last thing that I learned about was the first thing, you know what I mean? And just that's one thing. I know even Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird say they wanted it more like the comics, but I think it's one of the best comic book adaptations of all time.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's one of the most faithful adaptations. I also think it's like so I love the Mirage comics. I do think they're really good. Best Turtles comics ever. I mean, I haven't read a ton of the other ones, but Mirage and Last Ronin are the ones I've read the most of. It's between those two, Last Ronin and Mirage. I think Mirage, just for classic's sake and impact's sake, might get number one for me. But I do think the movie, personally, I think it's actually an improvement on the Mirage comics. Like the Mirage comics are great, but I think the movie just gave it that extra oomph, that extra like identity that it just needed to be even better. And I think the 1990 movie, it's better than the cartoon, it's better than the comics, and it's like faithful to both at the same time.
I think again, you just nailed that. Like it's perfect. Like it's the perfect storm of both. And like you said, it takes the good stuff and almost makes it better. Because again, the one problem with Mirage, and again, they're great comics, but let's be real, there's not a lot of character development. You know what I mean? For the first 10 issues, like if they didn't do the one-offs for each of the turtles, like it would be really hard to tell them apart, like as far as like their personalities and stuff like that. There really wasn't a lot of variation. So that's what I feel like the movie really improved upon from the comics, is like we had the character development and we had these unique personalities for each of the turtles, which again, even though their comics were longer comics too, I think they're 40 pages per issue or whatever. Like they still just, a comic cannot tell the story that a full length movie can.
There's that nuance you can get with video that you just can't get in writing. And you especially you read the earlier comics, the first issue, they're just there's 4 Batmen basically. They're cool, but like they don't have those personalities. And the 87 show is greatly to thank for those personalities. Because even though like Raph is probably the most different from the cartoon show to the movie, they're still all kind of built on it. Raph's always kind of been like the rebel kind of, and Mikey's the fun party dude, Don's the brains. Although they actually don't focus on Don being the brain that much in the movie.
That's what I was gonna say. Like he's like, I feel like the least developed character in that movie for sure. Like it really doesn't. I feel like he's almost the sarcastic one. He's almost more animated series Raph in that one, and then Raph is just this locker room cancer that doesn't exist anywhere else but that movie universe at the time.
Well, like I said, I think in my video on it, I feel like Donnie is kind of shown to be smarter and more mature than the other ones. It's just done a little more subtle. He's not building portals out of toasters and stuff. Like they do show his mechanical side when he's helping Casey with the truck. I think just the fact that like he is he's a bit more mature than the other turtles. Like he'll try to comfort them when they're down and stuff. Like he's the one who comforts Mike when he's crying. He's asking Mike, what do we do when Splinter dies? He's an old man. He's going to die soon. And none of the other turtles are thinking of that as a reality, or they're not letting themselves think about it because it hurts.
Then Mike doesn't even acknowledge it in that scene.
Yeah. So like Donnie just is kind of shown to be like, and I almost saw his joking more as he's a bit more humble. He's thought about these things a bit more. So he's not as emotional as the other turtles because he's actually thought about this stuff. Like he lets himself think about these things, whereas the other turtles bottle their emotions up and don't want to like face these things. And like Donnie's a little more humble than the other turtles, I felt in the movie. And then Leo is just, he's Leo. And so
I feel like Leo and Mikey are definitely the two like most like cliche versions of themselves in that for sure. Like right, and it sets it off right in the beginning. Like Leonardo comes in, yes, Master Splinter. You know what I mean? Like he's just he's the schoolboy or that schoolboy, like the Boy Scout archetype, perfect apple polisher type student. All right, you guys. So we're about an hour into this movie conversation, and we realize we just have a lot more to say. So we're actually going to cut this one off right here, and we're going to make this one a two-parter because, like I said, I feel like we barely scratched the surface on this, and I've been pumped to talk about this stuff. So I want to talk about it in another episode.
Yeah, we still have a lot more to say. It's hard to cover 3 movies in 1 hour. So yeah, come back in 2 weeks, and we're going to continue this discussion.
All right. So that's all we got for you guys in this one. So yeah, I guess take it easy and see you guys later.
Peace.
Peace.